Snow White skipped happily through the forest. Birds sang sweet songs, filling the air with their melodious tunes. The forest was alive with the sounds of nature, creating a symphony that made Snow White's heart soar with joy. She felt a deep connection with the forest, as if it were a part of her. Squirrels chattered from the trees, their tiny voices adding to the chorus of the forest. They seemed to be having animated conversations, perhaps discussing the latest happenings in their woodland home. Snow White smiled at their lively chatter, feeling grateful for the companionship of her furry friends. The sun warmed Snow White's face, its gentle rays filtering through the canopy of leaves above. She closed her eyes for a moment, basking in the warmth and feeling the energy of the sun rejuvenate her spirit. The sunlight danced on her skin, making her feel alive and connected to the world around her. It was a beautiful day. The sky was a brilliant blue, and the forest was bathed in a golden glow. Every leaf and flower seemed to sparkle with life, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. Snow White felt a deep sense of peace and contentment as she wandered through the enchanted forest.
"What's wrong?" Snow White asked, her voice filled with concern. She had noticed the worried expressions on the faces of her animal friends and knew something was amiss.
Snow White reached a clearing. Her animal friends were gathered there. They looked worried. The usually cheerful clearing was now filled with an air of tension and unease. Snow White's heart ached to see her friends in distress, and she was determined to find out what had happened.
"Our treasures are gone, Snow White. Someone has taken everything." The animals cried out, their voices trembling with fear and sadness. They gestured towards the empty space where their precious belongings had once been, their eyes pleading for Snow White's help.
The animals gathered around Snow White, their faces etched with worry. Snow White felt a surge of determination. She knew she had to help her friends and find the missing treasures. She took a deep breath and promised them that she would do everything in her power to make things right. Together, they would uncover the mystery and restore peace to their beloved forest.
"Treasures? What treasures?" Snow White asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. She had always been fascinated by the stories of hidden treasures and the mysteries they held. The forest was full of secrets, and she was eager to uncover them.
The animals looked at each other, their eyes filled with worry and sadness. They had always cherished their special treasures, each one holding a unique story and sentimental value. The loss of these treasures had left a void in their hearts.
"Each of us had a special treasure," said a wise old owl, his voice heavy with emotion. "These treasures were not just objects, they were symbols of our memories and experiences." "I had a shiny button," said a small squirrel, holding back tears. "It was given to me by my grandmother, and it always reminded me of her warmth and love."
"And I had a beautiful feather," said a delicate bluebird, her voice trembling. "It was a gift from my best friend, a symbol of our unbreakable bond," added a little bluebird, her voice tinged with sadness. The feather was more than just a feather. It was a piece of her heart. A tiny tear rolled down her cheek, glistening in the sunlight. The loss of her feather felt like losing a part of herself.
"Someone took all our treasures. It's a mystery!" exclaimed a young rabbit, his voice filled with frustration and confusion. "We have to find out who did this and why."
Snow White listened carefully, her heart aching for her friends. She knew how much these treasures meant to them and how their loss had affected the entire forest community. She wanted to help her friends. Determined to solve the mystery, she decided to take action. "We will find your treasures," she thought to herself, her resolve growing stronger with each passing moment.
"Don't worry, we'll find your treasures," Snow White reassured the animals, her voice filled with confidence and compassion. "Together, we will uncover the truth and bring back what was lost."
But who could have taken them? The forest was usually a peaceful place, where everyone knew each other and lived in harmony. It was hard to believe that something like this could happen here. The child looked around, hoping for some clue or sign that would point to the culprit.
The animals shook their heads. They had no idea. The deer, the rabbits, and even the wise old owl were all equally baffled. They had never seen anything like this before. The forest was their home, and they took pride in keeping it safe and orderly. This mystery was unsettling for everyone. Suddenly, a giggle echoed through the clearing. It was a light, playful sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The animals and the child looked around, trying to locate the source of the giggle. It was as if the forest itself was playing tricks on them. A flash of orange caught Snow White's eye. It was quick, almost too quick to be seen, but there was no mistaking it. Something or someone was moving through the trees with incredible speed and agility. Snow White's heart raced as she tried to follow the movement with her eyes.
Look! Over there! The child shouted, pointing excitedly towards the direction of the flash. The animals turned their heads, straining to see what the child had seen. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, as if they were on the verge of discovering something important.
She exclaimed, pointing to a mischievous-looking fox with sparkling orange fur. The fox was unlike any they had seen before. Its fur seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, giving it an almost magical appearance. The fox's eyes twinkled with mischief, and it was clear that it was enjoying the attention. The fox was perched on a rock, a sly grin on his face. He looked down at the child and the animals with an expression that was both playful and cunning. It was as if he knew something they didn't, and he was daring them to figure it out. He was holding a small, shimmering object in his paw. The object caught the light and sparkled brightly, drawing everyone's attention. It was a button, but not just any button. It was the child's button, the one that had gone missing. The fox twirled it between his fingers, as if showing off his prize.
"That looks like my button. That sneaky fox!" the child exclaimed, pointing at the fox with a mix of surprise and realization. The animals gathered around, their curiosity piqued. They had found the culprit, but the question remained, why had the fox taken the button, and what other secrets did this mysterious fox hold?
The fox winked at Snow White and the animals, charming them all. Then, in a swirl of orange sparks, he disappeared into thin air.
He's magical. How will we ever catch him now?
Don't worry, we'll follow his magic trail.
And so began their grand adventure. Snow White, with her kind heart and determination, led the way forward. The animals followed closely behind, their hopes high and spirits lifted.